Good afternoon, at least I think it's afternoon. I was checking my email, and Robert, I'm taking your suggestion to heart, and he had a question regarding rounding the backs of board bows. And I don't know if you can see this. I'll do my best. Here's my paddle bow, and you may or may not be able to see that I've just broken that flat board-like back. And I don't really care personally, I mean it's a personal issue, of having a board bow that's shaped like a board. There's something about a dead flat surface that just doesn't appeal to me. I like curves, as you can, there's lots of curves here, so I break the surface by rounding it. And Robert asked, better put these things back on, if it reduces the draw weight, and the simple answer is yes. When you remove wood from the back, you're going to be lowering the draw weight. But there's the one thing is, if you're not removing tons of wood, you're not lowering the draw weight that much, and you can of course control that by how thick the total bow is before you start. So when I round them, I make them heavier than I'm planning, then I round them and it gets it down, then I finish sanding the things down to the desired draw weight. What this does is, especially on a wide limb bow, where you do run, say, and you can see it here, although this is rift cut, the grain's going like this, there is a runoff in this risky area right here, and so when you do round it, you're relieving the stresses along the edges, which will make the bow less prone to break. Not only is it less prone to break, overall because the draw weight's down a little bit, but you're also decreasing the possibility of bad things happening along the edges. And edges are areas which there could be possible problems. I also forgot to talk about why I do not have this bending through the handle like, say, a short yew or juniper West Coast paddle bow. Well, different woods, as I have said over and over again, have different properties. This applies very much to ash, maybe not as much to red oak, but definitely with ash. I have to have a thickness through the handle of about 1 inch in my paddle bows to keep them from bending through the handle. If they bend through the handle, this is kind of a sophisticated thought, some problems with compression can take place if you're near the maximum comfortable draw weight for the wood, the bow. What can happen, because it's constricting, the bow is thinner here, and then it gets narrow, and so it'll be thicker. If you have a consistent bend through here, you're going to have a thicker, narrower cross-section, which means that there's more movement because of compression where it's thicker. And ash definitely can't take it. And what will happen where it gets narrower and thicker, because there's more, stress on that outer layer than there really is on the thinner portion, is you can develop creisels or compression lines, and it will lead to compression failure. Ash and I believe red oak, although I haven't had failure here through bending the handle bows, is a real issue when it's narrow and thicker. I can't explain it better than that. Really, I probably could, but it would take a long time. And so just kind of think your way through it. Let's see here. I also don't care for paddle bows that bend through the handle because of hand shock. They're really not, at 66 inches overall, 64 inches knock to knock, they don't need to be bent through the handle because the wide limbs allow it to get a good draw length. 29 inches, 30 inches is enough. And so I don't need to have it bent through the handle, risk compression problems where it gets thin, or narrow and thicker. Yeah, where it gets thin and thicker. That sounds strange. And so I don't have it bent through the handle. Now, Robert, you wanted to know, how do I round the back? Well, what I do is I use my Scribe-O-Matic. And I'm going to mark two surfaces on here. First, I'm going to set it, and I'll show you this. I'll take it off this way. Then I'll mark this way because I like to have it start evenly. It kind of mimics a stave-made bow. Then I'm going to take this, and let's just do this way. I'll just do one side so it doesn't take as long. Take this out. Move this beautiful arrow that Warpath made. Take this out so you can see it. And in my bench I do have a pin in holes. So when I'm clamping it down and pushing on one side, that stop will stop the thing from rotating. So here I go. I've got the lines on the face. And I have a line almost to this top edge. Those are my reference marks. And you could use an orbital disc sander or some other kind of powered sander, or else a farrier's rasp. And let's see here. And get that bevel nice and even right down to the lines. And so where you see these lines right here, that bevel will be even. I look down it nice and even. It's ready for the next phase. Then I'll do a second bevel. It's just like a knife edge. It has a double bevel. It's got the original bevel, then a second one. And not rounded yet, but it's ready to be rounded. Then I'll take the pens on the species of wood and the grain pattern. Either a scraper to round off those bevels so then the back is rounded, or orbital disc sander or a sanding block or whatever, your choice. And so I do use reference lines when I'm creating the beginnings of those bevels. Do clean bevels so you have those edges so you can clearly see where the line is, and then just round it off. It's a little more complicated if you'd have a pyramid bow or a paddle bow, because you're not seeing like really clean edges, and it changes a little bit depending on how narrow it is. But you can still have reference lines, and then not working to the line, just use those reference lines to get even bevels. So where it gets narrower down here, then you know that bevel will get further from the line and less noticeable. Picture a stave bow. It's made from a round. It's basically the same. And as you travel down the length of this to where it narrows, you're going to actually have a less of a bevel. So it's almost like board-like right here, but I just break it a little bit to remove that. Now, the reason that these paddle bows are so fast is because they are almost like pyramid bows. Yes, it kind of flares a little bit through here, but more or less, it just gets wider like a pyramid bow that then cuts off and changes. And the change between the pyramid bow and my paddle bow is near the handle, so it doesn't really affect the speed. Plus, I'm not a big one. I never do overlays because a lot of overlays are made from heavy material, and adding heavy material to the tips is like I hate saying worse because overlays really do look pretty, and I don't want to speak negatively. But that's not the best place to put something of a dense mass. Even though they're small, it does add to the weight. And also, I use pin knocks. You can see my pin knocks. Those are a little lighter than having string grooves and wood beyond the string that really doesn't do anything. The wood that's left on the tip between the string and the very end is just there. It's not doing anything, so I don't see the reason why not to have pin knocks. The more weight you remove from the tips, the faster it is. And then it's actually rounded on the end here. And I've taken a lot of time thinking about paddle bows. I don't know how many I've made. I've made hundreds, literally hundreds of paddle bows. And they've changed from the very first one I made to like this finished form. And with each successive experiment, I've either kept the changes or dismissed them because they didn't help at all. So this is actually a very evolved form of a bow that I've been working on for the past maybe 10 years or so. And again, if I was to guess how many I've made, probably 300. Every conceivable permutation from upper 50s to 66 inches, which I don't need to have any longer than 66 because you can get a good bend with them. Different widths, rawhide backed, sinew backed, a few of them. There's no real need to sinew back something this long. Snake skin, bull snake and very wide rattlesnakes. It looks good on here, good camouflage. And so I shall leave it at that. You have kind of an idea of why I round it, how I round them, and also why I don't have them flex through the handle. Thank you for watching, and we'll just call it quits at that. See you later.